Your brain rebuilds itself every single day based on what you do with it. Which means right now, you're either getting sharper or getting duller. There is no pause button. These are the 10 habits that push you in the right direction, and the last 3 are the ones almost nobody does. Habit 1. Read outside your lane. 20 minutes a day, on something that has nothing to do with your job or your hobbies. Here is why this works when normal reading doesn't. Your brain builds intelligence through connections between ideas, and connections need distance. A programmer reading about programming adds a little. A programmer reading about ant colonies, Roman logistics, or how casinos design carpets builds bridges no one else has. That is where original thinking actually comes from. Most so-called geniuses are just people who imported an idea from one field into another before anyone else thought to. Charlie Munger called it a latticework of mental models, and he credited it for most of his fortune. The habit is simple. 1 article, 1 chapter, 20 minutes. On something that feels irrelevant. The more irrelevant it feels, the more valuable it probably is. And if you can't decide what to read, use this rule. Pick the subject you know embarrassingly little about. That embarrassment is your brain telling you where the empty shelf space is. Habit 2 is even easier, and you already own everything it requires. Habit 2. Write things by hand, not everything, just the things you want to keep. Students who handwrite notes consistently outperform students who type them, and the reason is almost funny. Typing is too fast. Your fingers can keep up with the words, so your brain checks out and becomes a stenographer. Handwriting is slow, and that slowness forces compression. You can't write every word, so your brain has to decide what matters, rephrase it, shrink it. That deciding is the learning. The notebook is just a receipt. This works beyond notes. Stuck on a decision. Write the problem out longhand. Something about dragging a pen across paper at 2 miles an hour surfaces. Thoughts that typing never touches. 5 minutes of handwriting a day is enough. A morning intention, tonight's one lesson, the thing you're chewing on. Keep one cheap notebook and make it ugly. Perfect notebooks become museums. Ugly notebooks become thinking. Habit 3 takes whatever you wrote down and multiplies it, using the oldest trick in education. Habit 3. Teach one thing a day. Anything you learned explained out loud, to anyone, a friend, a coworker, your dog, your shampoo bottle. The audience doesn't matter. The explaining does. Richard Feynman, the Nobel physicist, was famous for this. His rule was brutal. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it. And teaching is the fastest way to find out, because your brain lets you feel like you understand things you've only recognized. You've read the word, nodded at the idea, moved on. Then you try to explain it and discover the middle of the explanation is missing. That missing middle is exactly what teaching finds and fills. The mechanics are simple. Say it out loud, in plain words, no jargon allowed. Jargon is where fake understanding hides. If you get stuck, that stuck point is your homework, and it is usually one search away from being fixed. Do this once a day, and you're running a daily audit on your own knowledge. Most people never audit. They just keep depositing counterfeit understanding and wondering why they can't spend it. Habit 4 gets you out of the house, and the science on it borders on unfair. Habit 4. Walk every day, and if you can, walk before you think. A 20-minute walk does something no supplement has ever matched. It floods your brain with a protein called BDNF, which researchers describe as fertilizer for neurons. It literally helps brain cells grow and connect. Stanford researchers found that walking boosts creative output significantly. And here is the strange part. The effect keeps working for a while after you sit back down. Which means the walk isn't a break from thinking. It is a pre-treatment for it. History agrees. Darwin had a gravel path he circled daily and called it his thinking path. Beethoven walked every afternoon with a pencil. Steve Jobs held his most important meetings on foot. These people did not have time to waste, and they all independently decided walking wasn't wasted time. The modern rule, no phone, or at most, music without words. The walk works because your brain gets bored, and a bored brain starts connecting things. Feed it a podcast and you've just moved your desk outside. Which brings us to habit 5, because boredom deserves its own slot. Habit 5. Get bored on purpose. 10 minutes a day of absolutely nothing. No phone, no music, no book. Stare out a window like it is 1974. This sounds like a joke habit. It is arguably the most important one on the list because of what your brain does the moment you stop feeding it. It switches into something neuroscientists call the default mode network. the background system that sorts memories, connects distant ideas, and untangles problems you gave up on. Every shower thought you've ever had came from this network. The shower didn't make you smart. The shower was just the last place you couldn't bring a screen, and that is the problem. The default network only runs when nothing else is running, and modern life has eliminated every gap it used to live in. Waiting rooms, bus stops, elevators, all filled, all scrolled. You are systematically starving your best thinking system and calling it staying informed. So schedule the boredom, 10 minutes, sitting there mildly uncomfortable. The first week feels like withdrawal, because it is. Then the ideas start arriving, and they feel free because they are. Halfway there. But before habit 6, a warning. Quick warning before we continue. The first 5 habits make you smarter. The next 5 are different. They're the ones that make other people notice. If you only remember half this video, make it this half. Habit 6. Treat sleep as part of learning, not the break from it. Here is what actually happens tonight. Everything you learned today is sitting in temporary storage, fragile, half-saved. During deep sleep, your brain replays it, sometimes at many times the original speed, and files it into long-term memory. Skip the sleep, skip the save. Studies on this are humbling. People who learn something and then sleep normally outperform people who learned the same thing but slept badly, on the exact same test. Same effort, different results, and the difference happened while they were unconscious. So the habit has 2 parts. First, put the hardest learning of your day reasonably close to sleep. Review your notes in the evening, and you're essentially handing your brain a to-do list on your way out the door. Second, protect the sleep itself like it is a work meeting. Because it is one, you're not resting, you're rendering. Every all-nighter you've ever pulled was you deleting the files you stayed up to create. Habit 7 costs nothing, takes 10 seconds, and most adults are too proud to do it. Habit 7. Ask one dumb question every day, out loud, to a real person, in the moment you'd normally nod and pretend, here is the math everyone gets backwards. Asking the question costs you 10 seconds of looking slow. Not asking costs you permanent ignorance of something everyone assumed you knew, plus every future decision built on the gap. Nodding is a loan with criminal interest. And the secret adults forget, the dumb question is almost never dumb. Why do we do it this way? Wait, explain that part again. 10 seconds of humility compounding daily. Habit 8 is the only one on this list disguised as entertainment. Half the time the person explaining discovers they can't, which means the question just exposed a hole in the whole room's understanding, and you're the one who found it. Kids run this habit constantly, asking why dozens of times a day. Then somewhere around age 12, image management takes over, and the questions stop. The learning curve doesn't flatten because brains age. It flattens because pride arrives. So set the quota, 1 per day. What does that stand for? Why do we do it this way? Wait, explain that part again. 10 seconds of humility, compounding daily. Habit 8 is the only one on this list disguised as entertainment. Habit 8. Play games that push back. Chess, puzzles, strategy games, a language app, a hard crossword. Feeds you win after win, asks nothing, changes nothing. A game you sometimes lose is doing real work, forcing you to hold plans in your head, adapt when they collapse, and study your own mistakes, which is the single most transferable skill on this entire list. Feeds you win after win, asks nothing, changes nothing. A game you sometimes lose is doing real work, forcing you to hold plans in your head, adapt when they collapse, and study your own mistakes, which is the single most transferable skill on this entire list. The research on brain training is honestly mixed, so here is the honest version. The game makes you better at the game first. Habit 9. Curated, what goes in. Your brain runs on whatever you feed it, and most people are on a diet they never chose. An algorithm chose it, and the algorithm's goal is not your intelligence. It is your attention, and outrage is cheaper than insight. So here is the audit. Look at your last hour of scrolling and ask one question about each thing. Will I use this? Ever. Not enjoy. Use. Entertainment is fine, but be honest about the ratio, because the average person now consumes hours of content a day, and if even a tenth of it were chosen deliberately, they'd be unrecognizable in a year. The habit is one swap. Each day, replace one piece of algorithm, fed content with one piece you chose on purpose. One article instead of one feed session. One documentary instead of one autoplay spiral. That is it. You're not quitting anything. You're just taking back one slot a day from the machine. And follow the curiosity rule when choosing. Pick what you're actually curious about, not what sounds impressive. Curiosity is your brain telling you where it is ready to grow. Impressiveness is your ego ordering for someone else. Last habit. Number 10 is the one that makes the other 9 stick. Habit 10, the 2-minute review. Every night before the phone goes on the charger, answer 3 questions. What did I learn today? What did I get wrong? What will I do differently tomorrow? That is the whole habit, and it is the one that makes the other 9 compound instead of evaporate. Because here is what happens without it. Experience passes through you. You have the day, but you never collect it. People confuse 20 years of experience with 1 year of experience repeated 20 times, and the difference is exactly this habit. Review is how experience becomes data. The wrong answers matter most. Your brain is a prediction machine, and it only recalibrates when you make it look directly at a miss. Skip the look, keep the miss. Athletes watch game tape. Pilots debrief every flight. Surgeons review complications. Every field that can't afford stupidity has institutionalized this exact 2 minutes. And notice what the 3 questions quietly do. They assume you learned something, which makes you hunt for it tomorrow. They assume you got something wrong, which makes error normal instead of shameful. And they end on tomorrow, which turns the whole day into a draft instead of a verdict. 2 minutes, every night. Compounding forever. 10 habits. None of them cost money. All of them cost consistency. Don't try all 10 tomorrow. That is a recipe for zero. Pick one. Run it for a week, then add the next. Tell me in the comments which one you're starting with. And if you want to see what your life looks like at every net worth level, that video is on your screen right now.